One of the key elements of magazines is the fact that consumers love them. Um, and in research that the industry have undertaken, there's proven that consumers actually will shop in retailers that stock their favourite magazines more often than retailers that don't stock their favourite magazines. So it helps generate footfall in that way. But the real big reason for footfall generation, there's a number of them, but the key one is the fact that magazines are published on a regular frequency. So be it a weekly title where you get 52 issues a year, or be it a monthly title when it 12 issues a year. A lot of consumers know and understand when the next issue is due out. Obviously it's very simple when it's a weekly, it's every Tuesday or every Thursday, for example. But on a monthly, they've got a good idea that it's the first week of the month, the third week of the month, whatever that may be, and it's a Tuesday or a Thursday, as another example. And what that does is that then drives consumers into retailers to pick up and purchase their favourite magazines. And what we do is work with retailers to help them get the right mix of product for their retail store to enable them to benefit from driving some of that consumer traffic into store. Yeah, and I think a classic example around that is the garden centres that we work with, because we can actually put up to 2 metres of magazines into a large garden centre. Garden centres are destinations. A lot of people sort of go out, have a browse around, grab a coffee, and also pick up some other bits and pieces while they're in the store. I think that's a good example of you build a wider range to actually capture the customer profile, customer avatar of the type of people that are going into store. So take your car spares shop, for example. They may want Land Rover World or whatever title it may be for their particular passion and mark of car, but there are a wide range of other titles that fit quite nicely into that genre of consumer profile that's going in, be it a Top Gear and likes, or general interest motoring titles in that sense. So yeah, we can create ranges from either one title all the way through to on a 2 metre range. We can get up to 80 titles. On a 3 metre range we can get 120. Clearly that size of range isn't right for the majority of our retailers, but for a lot of the smaller independent retailers that we work with, we're working with them on 12 and 18 and 24 title ranges. But again, it's about finding the right mix. Yeah, and I think we'll cover that in a future episode around basket spend. But it's a very valid point, because what you find is consumers generally who purchase and read magazines are slightly more affluent, and because of the fact that they read quite a lot, that puts them in a slightly higher echelon of society. I'm not saying they're A1s there, but it's slightly above the norm. And because of that, they generally have slightly more disposable income, and they generally are better and bigger impulse purchasers. And the stats have shown, particularly around some of the grocery supermarket data that the industry's looked at, that people who buy magazines in a retail environment, generally their average basket spend is around 25% higher than a shopper that doesn't have a magazine in their basket. Now clearly what we're not saying is that they spend an extra 25% on magazines. It's the fact that it's a slightly more affluent purchaser, and so it brings the consumers into store who have a higher propensity to impulse purchase and spend more money. There's a number of things really. I think again it depends on the size of range that a retailer takes for their consumers. But we can go anywhere from a one title counter display unit, and that's a great, counters and in and around the counters are great places to have magazines because of that impulse purchase angle we were just talking about. But also, 3 title units, 6, 12, 24, all the way up to normal wall racking. And I think that what works well with magazines is just ensuring they're in high footfall areas within store, because they are an impulse purchase, as well as consumers coming in looking for their favourite mags. You want to catch that casual traffic as well as they walk the floor. And yeah, so you're looking at a whole host of different ranges of racks that we have available. We've just launched recently a rent-a-rack scheme. So for retailers who can't justify the whole upfront expenditure of paying for it, then we offer them the opportunity to rent racks from us on a monthly basis. So you know, there's all sorts of options, all sorts of varieties available. In terms of promotions, I think it's about getting behind the promotions with the publishers. So, for example, you know, if there's the publishers will spend quite a lot of money working out what their readership really likes and engages with. So the sorts of things that are on the covers of the magazines, the publishers have researched that, and as such, it's worth thinking about how that ties in with what else is on offer in the store. And when there's a cover-mounted gift or a promotion on the cover that really ties in with the consumers or the other product ranges in store, to give that some, you know, great display space and push that in terms of when consumers come in. And real interesting one, magazines are really one of the only products whereby within the contents of the magazine, through advertisements, more often than not, there are other things that you've got for sale in your store. So, for example, in a gardening title, if you're stocking, you know, hoses and clip-on device and all that sort of stuff, you know, more often than not, they'll be advertising in BBC Gardeners World, for example, and off the back of that, you're selling that in store. There's a great way you can then create your own cross-promotion, or at the very least, have a conversation with your customer when they're at the till. So if a consumer is, say, looking around the hoses, use that example again, then you can always use, well, there's a great article in BBC Gardeners World this month that we've seen that ties that in. And your product endorsing across both then, because the power of magazines, particularly high-end brands like BBC Gardeners World, is that endorsement, that feature in the magazine actually gives the individual products an awful lot of kudos and an awful lot of support in many ways, and you can just tie that back in and use it as a mini way of cross-promoting within store or encouraging additional purchase. I think the best way really is to talk to the team here, the customer magazine advisors, and really understand, I think, you know, what would ideally share some information around the type of what we call a customer avatar, but, you know, what is the age and social economic mix of the sorts of consumers that you're getting through the door. And because of that, we then obviously will know what your core brand product range is. So obviously for an angling shop, we know it's going to be angling mags. But then if you actually also say, well, next door to us we have, you know, a big community of, you know, campsite, for example, then there may be people who are on holiday who are coming on fishing holidays within that and camping next door or caravanning next door, but also are interested in the fishing and the tackle and the bait and stuff you're doing. So there's an opportunity there to understand more about which other titles could fit. So it could be about location, it could be about the customer type that you've got coming through the door, or a mix of the two. We supply over 5,000 different retailers, and because of that, we've got a great idea of what will work in different environments. And the other thing to consider is the size of the store. You know, if you've got quite a big store and you've got high footfall, then a wider range could work for you. But if you are really just, you know, a small little niche and specialist out there, it may only be that 2 or 3 titles are right for you. And again, we'll work with the customer on that. We're not really looking to just put as wide a range of magazines as possible into a store. It's finding what's right for the retailer. Magazines, which we'll cover in a future episode, are supplied on sale or return. So we don't make any money if we send you stuff that you send back. So because of that, it's not in our interest to just try and get you to take product that doesn't work. Best way is give them a call, really. So yeah, give them a call on 0121 788 3112.